K9 tracks a vanished boy. Where it led left everyone speechless. The sun had just started rising over the quiet school grounds. Orange and gold light poured across the cracked sidewalks and empty parking lot. The grass was freshly cut, the flag rustled in the breeze, and kids were slowly arriving for another normal morning. But nothing about this day would be normal. Officer Eli Novak stood beside his cruiser, sipping bitter coffee from a paper cup. His partner, Fantoma, sharp-eyed Belgian Malinois with a jagged scar over his left eye, sat beside him, ears alert and tail still. Phantom wasn't like other police dogs. He had a mind of his own. Smart, stubborn, and always 2 steps ahead. Eli trusted him with his life, but the dog had a habit of disobeying commands when his gut told him something was off. "Nice and quiet today, huh?" Eli said, tossing the rest of his coffee. Phantom gave no response, only sniffed the air. A group of children walked toward the school entrance, laughing, backpacks bouncing. Eli scanned the area like always. Everything looked normal. Then suddenly Phantom shot forward like a rocket. "Phantom, heel!" Eli shouted. But the dog didn't stop. He raced toward the back of the school, toward the old construction zone that had been fenced off and forgotten. Eli's heart skipped. Phantom never acted like this unless something was wrong. He sprinted after him, yelling for Officer Zariah Kwan, his young partner, to follow. Phantom disappeared around the corner, barking wildly. By the time Eli reached him, the dog was circling an old metal container. Its sides were rusted, paint chipped, and the lock looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Phantom's nose pressed to the seam. His paws clawed at the metal, and his barks turned desperate. "What's he found?" Zariah asked, panting as she caught up. "I don't know, but it's something," Eli said. He pressed an ear to the container. For a second, there was only silence. Then he heard it. A soft knock. Faint. Weak. Like someone barely had the strength to hit the wall. Eli's stomach turned. "Get bolt cutters," he yelled. Zariah sprinted off, calling it in. Phantom paced back and forth like a caged animal. Eli knelt beside him and placed a hand on his neck. He felt the tension under his fingers. The dog was vibrating with nervous energy. "Hang in there, buddy," Eli whispered. Zariah returned with a set of bolt cutters and handed them over. Eli's hands trembled as he snapped the lock. It fell to the ground with a sharp clink. He grabbed the door's handle and pulled. A wave of hot, stale air blasted out. The smell made him gag. Inside, it was dark, too dark. The only light came from the open door behind them. Eli raised his flashlight and stepped inside. Phantom tight at his side. Then they saw it. In the far corner, a small hand moved. A boy, no older than 9 or 10, crawled toward the light. His face was soaked in sweat. Dirt streaked across his cheeks, and his lips were cracked and dry. His clothes clung to his skinny frame, soaked through. He didn't speak, just stared, eyes wide with terror. Phantom moved gently, sniffing him, then sat beside the boy as if guarding him. Eli dropped to his knees and wrapped the boy in his arms. "You're safe now," he whispered. The boy barely had the strength to speak, but he whispered something. Eli leaned closer. "He's coming back." "What?" Eli asked gently. The boy looked at him with eyes too old for someone so young. He said if I was quiet, he'd let me go. But he lied. He locked me in. He said he'd come back. Zariah stepped beside them, her voice shaking. "Sarge, look." Eli followed her gaze. A black pickup truck was disappearing down the long stretch of road behind the school. No plates, tinted windows. It vanished into the morning fog like a ghost. Eli's chest tightened. Whoever did this wasn't done. And Phantom hadn't just smelled something. He had felt something was wrong before anyone else did. That was just the beginning.
The boy's name was Micah. He was 9 years old, quiet, and shaking like a leaf under the thermal blanket the paramedics wrapped around him. He kept glancing over his shoulder, like someone was watching him. Eli stayed beside him while Phantom sat close, never taking his eyes off the empty road where the black truck had disappeared. "Micah," Eli said gently, "can you tell me what happened?" The boy hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. He took me when I was walking home. Said he was a friend of my mom's. He smiled, but it didn't feel right. Micah's voice broke. He locked me in the container and said I'd be let go if I didn't scream. Zariah knelt beside them. Did you hear anything else? Sweetie, anyone else talking? Anything strange? Micah blinked hard, then whispered. I heard other voices, kids crying. Eli and Zariah looked at each other. The air between them turned cold. Phantom suddenly stood up, ears forward, nose to the ground. Without warning, he bolted again. Phantom, wait, Eli shouted, but Phantom didn't stop. He sprinted toward the far end of the lot, heading for a row of thick bushes near the fence line. Eli chased him, Zariah right behind. Phantom crashed into the brush, barking furiously. Then came the sound of metal. They found Phantom scratching at another container. This one was sunken halfway into the earth, hidden behind weeds and branches. The lock looked newer, stronger. It didn't belong here. Zariah, call it in again. Tell them to bring backup and the cutters, Eli ordered. Phantom barked once, then whined low. Eli pressed his ear to the side of the container. Thump, thump. A weak knock. When the team arrived, they worked fast. The lock broke open. Eli yanked the door wide. Inside were two kids, a boy and a girl, no older than 10. Their wrists were tied with zip ties, their mouths gagged with cloth. Their eyes were red from crying, their clothes soaked in sweat. Phantom rushed in, sniffing them, whining softly. Zariah's voice cracked. Oh my God. Eli quickly cut the ties. The kids collapsed into his arms, sobbing. But his mind was racing. This wasn't just one random act. This was a pattern. Someone was hunting kids and hiding them like they were trash. How long were you here? Eli asked the girl gently. She didn't answer, only cried harder. The boy said, I don't know. A day. Maybe 2. He fed us once, then left. Eli stood, his hands trembling. 3 kids into containers. 1 monster. And Micah had said there were more. Back at the ambulance, Micah tugged on Ellie's sleeve. Don't let him find me, he said, eyes wide with fear. He said he'd come back. He said it's not just me. There's more kids. Those words hit Eli like a punch to the chest. Zariah pointed across the lot. Look, in the dirt, beside the fence, a black hoodie was caught on a metal spike. On the sleeve, a strange patch, a raven in red dot. Eli picked it up. This isn't random, he muttered. This guy's part of something bigger. Phantom began to growl, low, deep. His body stiffened. Where's he going now? Zariah asked. Phantom had his nose to the ground again, circling something. Let him work, Eli whispered. A moment later, Phantom bolted, this time toward the edge of the school property, past the fields, toward the woods. Come on, Eli said. He's not just chasing a scent. He's tracking something real. They followed Phantom through the trees. He stopped at a spot where the earth looked disturbed. Nearby, a child's sneaker lay half buried. Eli picked it up. The toe was stained with something dark blood. Ramirez, mark this, he said into his radio. This is bigger than we thought. Phantom started barking again. Fast, sharp. He was pawing at something, an old van, half covered by brush. Zariah's voice was a whisper. That wasn't there yesterday. Eli stepped forward, heart racing. The van's windows were blacked out. Phantom growled, deep and warning. Eli raised his weapon. Whoever's in there, get out. Now. But there was no answer. Not yet. Inside Eli, something old stirred his worst fear from his time in child. Protective services, kids vanishing and no one noticing. He had left that job to stop it from happening again. And now, it was happening right in front of him. Only this time, with Phantom at his side. He wasn't going to let them disappear. The rusted van sat like a ghost in the trees, hidden under old leaves and vines. Phantom stood still, his growl low and steady. His fur stood on end. Eli took a deep breath. Gun raised. Police. Step out of the vehicle now. No answer. Only silence. Zariah circled to the other side. Gun drawn to. I see movement. She whispered. Then creaked the back door open an inch. A man peeked out. Thin, unshaven. Eyes sunken and hollow. He wore a dark hoodie. The red raven patch clearly showing on the sleeve. Out, Eli ordered. The man didn't speak. Instead, he turned and ran. Go, Eli shouted. Phantom shot forward like lightning. He leaped, teeth bared and clamped, onto the man's arm. The man fell, screaming. Eli rushed over, cuffing him with shaking hands. The man glared up at him and hissed, "You're too late." Zariah stared at the patch on his hoodie. That same symbol again. Eli grabbed the radio. Suspect in custody, requesting backup and transport. As the man was taken away, Phantom kept growling, eyes fixed on the forest. He wasn't calm. Not yet. Back at the station, the man sat in the cold, gray interrogation room. Eli leaned against the wall. Phantom sat by his side, silent but alert. "You want to tell me why you had 3 kids locked in metal containers?" Eli asked. The man smirked. "I didn't touch them. I just did what I was told." "Who's giving the orders?" Eli pressed. The man shook his head. "You're in over your head, officer." Eli slammed his hand on the table. 3 counts of kidnapping. That's what I've got. But I know it's more than that outside the room. Zariah and Ramirez reviewed traffic cam footage. "There," Zariah said, pointing to the screen. A black SUV stopped at a red light, 5 miles from the school. Behind it, barely visible, was a rusty sign, Hollow Creek Storage. Ramirez read aloud, "That place is half abandoned." Ellie's eyes narrowed when he saw the footage. "That's where we will go next." They rolled up quietly. The storage lot was filled with crumbling fences and weeds. Rows of metal units stood like tombs. Phantom stepped out of the cruiser, nose to the air. He moved fast, leading them through the maze of containers. Then he stopped. One unit had a loose padlock. The Phantom growled. Eli raised a hand to signal. "Stack up." Zariah took the left, Ramirez the right. Eli pulled open the door. The unit looked like storage at first. Boxes, crates, and dust. But when Eli opened one of the boxes, he froze. Children's clothes, shoes, backpacks. "Check the others," he said. Every box held more of the same items, carefully folded, tagged, organized. One box held school IDs. Some were the kids they had just rescued. Others were unknown. "Oh no," Zariah whispered. "Inventory," Eli said. They were tracking them. Phantom barked and ran to the back wall. He sniffed along the baseboard, then pawed at a strange patch of floor. Eli got down and touched it concrete, but it sounded hollow. He found the handle and pulled. A trapdoor creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into the dark. They shined their flashlights inside. The air was cold, damp, and smelled awful. "Let's move," Eli said. They crept down slowly, Phantom leading the way. At the bottom, they found a long hallway with metal doors, some open, some closed. A soft noise echoed, crying, whimpering. Phantom barked, then ran to a door near the end. He growled at it, pawing hard. Eli leaned in. A voice inside low, sharp, and mean. "Keep quiet, or else," Eli signaled to the team. 3, 2, 1. They kicked the door open. Inside, 4 kids huddled in the corner, shaking with fear. A tall man stood in front of them, calm as a statue. He smiled. "Told you, in over your head. Eli raised his weapon. Hands up. The man slowly lifted his hands as Zariah cuffed him. But Eli wasn't done. Phantom was barking again at a stack of crates in the back of the room. Eli pulled them aside and found another trap door. He opened it. A tunnel stretched beyond, disappearing into the darkness. Without hesitation, Phantom ran in. "Let's go," Eli said, heart pounding. They followed Phantom into the dark unknown. Somewhere ahead, something terrible was waiting. But they weren't backing down. Not this time. The tunnel felt endless. The air was heavy and damp. Ellie's flashlight shook in his hand as he followed Phantom, who moved quickly but carefully through the dark space. Every few steps, Phantom stopped, sniffed the ground, then pressed forward. With quiet focus, behind them, Zariah and Ramirez followed with their weapons ready. No one spoke. The only sounds were Phantom's paws, their footsteps, and Ellie's racing heartbeat. Finally, the tunnel opened into a large underground room. Eli stopped cold. It was like a secret base. Floodlights buzzed from the ceiling. Stacks of crates, old mattresses, and blankets were scattered everywhere. Metal cages lined one side of the room. Some were empty, some were not. A small voice broke the silence. "Help!" Eli turned fast. A little girl sat inside one of the cages, holding a stuffed rabbit. Her eyes were wide and filled with fear. Her hands clutched the bars. Phantom rushed over and barked loudly. "It's okay," Eli whispered as he fumbled with the lock. "You're safe now. We're here." When the door finally swung open, the girl leaped into his arms, crying. Eli held her close, heart breaking. "I've got you now. You're safe." Zariah and Ramirez moved through the room quickly, unlocking more cages. Some were empty, but in one, they found two more children shaking, tired and covered in dirt. Eli clicked his radio. "Dispatch. This is Sergeant Novak. We've located multiple child victims. Send all available units, medics, and child services. We need everything you've got." Sirens wailed in the distance. Help was on the way. But just when Eli thought it was over, Phantom barked again, sharper this time. He stood in front of another door, this one metal and rusted. He growled and pawed at it, fur bristling. Eli opened the door slowly. Inside was a small office. On the desk, maps, computers, and folders marked with strange codes. A wall map showed cities, school names, and arrows pointing to different states. Zariah stared at it. "This isn't just one guy. This is a whole network." Eli picked up a folder and opened it. Inside were pictures of children. Some of them matched the IDs from earlier. Others were unknown. Ramirez said quietly they were planning more. The man they arrested earlier was now in the back of a police car. When Eli walked past, the man smiled again. "You didn't even find half of them." Eli clenched his fists. "We will." Later that night, at the station, Eli sat at his desk with a warm blanket around Micah. The boy wouldn't let go of Phantom, who rested calmly beside him, tail thumping every few minutes. Micah looked up. "Is it really over?" Eli paused. "Not yet, but we're getting there." Phantom raised his head, ears twitching. Just then, Zariah burst through the door holding a tablet. "Sarge, you need to see this." She showed him a photo from a traffic camera. It was the same black SUV, but behind it was a worn-out sign that read, "Hollow Creek Storage." Eli stood up fast. "Let's move." They drove quietly into the old storage lot. It was dark, the air thick with dust and oil. Phantom stepped out of the cruiser, sniffed once, and took off. They followed him through rows of storage units until he stopped in front of one with a broken lock. Eli signaled the team, then opened the door. Inside were more boxes, More children's clothes, more IDs. This was a warehouse, Zariah said. They were sorting by names. Ages. Phantom sniffed again and moved toward a crack in the floor. Another trapdoor. Eli opened it and shined his flashlight down. Another tunnel. He turned to his team. Let's finish this. They moved carefully. At the end of the tunnel, they found more children locked in cages, weak and crying, but alive. They rescued every one of them. Outside, medics rushed in. The kids were given food, water, and blankets. Some clung to stuffed animals. Others just held hands. Eli sat on the steps near the ambulance, watching it all happen. His body felt heavy, but his heart was full. Phantom lay beside him, finally calm. You did it, Eli said, scratching behind his ears. You saved them. Phantom thumped his tail once. Micah walked over, holding a small notebook. Can I stay with you? He asked, voice trembling. Eli looked at him, then at Phantom, who seemed to nod. Yeah, buddy, Eli said softly. You already are.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Love Tales of Tales, for long, heartwarming pets and animals. Love stories that stay with you long after they end.